Howdy ho! Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are taking a look at the Treat Studios Ultimate Life-Size Chucky doll. I believe this is the 6th life-size Chucky Child's Play franchise item Treat Studios has come out with, and their 4th Chucky overall. Back when it first came out through Kickstarter, I picked up their Good Guy doll, which you saw in the introduction to this video. There's a lot to share between the Good Guy doll and this new Ultimate Chucky, but they've definitely made some major steps forward with this guy. The other pieces in between were the Seed of Chucky full family set, Chucky, Tiffany, and Glenda, as well as another Good Guy doll, but this time more of a kind of plush-bodied doll. But this is their first foray into doing a non-scarred, actual, menacing-looking doll. And by doing this quote-unquote ultimate version, they've opened the door to do some really interesting things. We'll get into the specifics here, but this doll allows for you to actually swap out both the hands and the head, with the idea that as time goes on, they'll release additional head and hand packages to customize your Chucky to the way you want him to look. This also paves the way for potentially a lot of other accessories and things like that coming with Chucky, but from my understanding, it's all going to build off of this base here, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at what we got. So for the head sculpt, they've given us a Chucky head that looks very menacing. Gone is the cutesy little smile of the Good Guy doll, and here we have the much more maniacal look. We can see his eyebrows are really furrowed, his face is all scrunched up, he's got just a really nasty looking evil grin there. They've also done some work to make this look more human than the Good Guy doll. The flesh tone is much more kind of realistic looking. If we get in there, we see there is like the normal pale flesh tone, but they've kind of added some like pink highlights in there as well, giving it a much more lifelike appearance. If you look at the Good Guy doll, he kind of had a more uniform, like tan look to him. Before I switch back, we also want to look at the eyes. You can see the very bright blue eyes on the Good Guy doll. And here they are still nice and glossy. They still have that kind of starburst pattern going on, but they are much creepier looking. The eyebrows, eyelashes are pretty similar. I think the coloration of them are a little lighter on here, specifically the eyebrows, I guess I should say. The freckles look maybe a little more prominent, but they also are on a lighter base flesh color, so that makes a little more sense. They've really kind of accented the Cupid's bow above his mouth. And then, whereas the Good Guy doll just had a couple little teeth sticking out the front and a tongue, we see these really kind of nasty, off-white, almost sharp-looking teeth. They're not really sharp-looking, but like, they definitely have a sinister look. It's hard to see, but you can almost make out like a little hint of a tongue behind them as well, which definitely helps look like Chucky's gonna start yelling at you any minute here. I have heard some people complain about the length of the hair on him. First of all, I want to say the hair is like a really nice color for Chucky, I think. But when it comes to Chucky, to be quite honest, I am not as familiar with all the little intricacies of the look of Chucky as I am with some of the Myers and Jason stuff. So it's a little harder for me to speak to this to the level that I can on some other properties. I think the hair looks fine. I felt like the hair looked fine on my initial Good Guy doll. I think the hair looks fine here. I don't really want it to be any longer or shorter, really. I feel like it would look strange if it was. I'm sure there will be people making improvements. I've already seen some people making improvements. I just don't think I have a keen enough eye for that detail, specifically with Chucky, to really say what I would do to fix it. And I think it looks good enough for my own purposes here. Obviously, this is soft goods hair, or whatever you want to call it, like real hair, quote unquote. Peel it back, you can see he has ears back there behind it. It's rooted into the head, so I think overall it looks really nice on here. It doesn't look goofy like some of their masks can. It's not like glued on awkwardly. Now, as I say this, mine's been leaning up against this box here for a bit, and it's probably not the best shape. And now that I'm looking at it in the back, maybe he does need a little trim back there. It is a little mullety, but you know what? I'm not going to mess with it right now. Yeah, it's definitely a little long here in the back, I think. I don't know. But the one place the hair can get really goofy is here on this kind of middle line. Mine's thankfully matted enough that you can't really see it on that side. Let's check the other side. Yep, the other side we can see there is definitely a bit of a line here. But that is for a good reason, because the back of the head is removable. So basically what we have here is a set of 4 magnets and kind of a indented pattern around here, and then the corresponding side on the other side of his head. So we just have the back half of the hair here, front half of the hair here. So there is a little, like I said, a bit of a seam in the hair, especially on this side where it's shorter on his, I guess it would be his right side, our left side when we're looking right at his face. But honestly, I still think it looks pretty decent when you get the hair overlapping. And what this gives us is access to his eye mechanism. So inside here, you can see the two eyes from the back, and then there's this kind of stick mechanism in between, and that is for actually posing his eyes. So I have seen some horror stories of people getting this doll and having the eye mechanism break. I've also seen people who have eyes that are not lined up properly with one another. My eyes seem like they're lined up decently, and despite it being a little tough to move at first, I was very gentle with it, and now they seem to move okay. So we could use this mechanism. It's kind of hard to show, but you can move side to side with it, as well as up and down with the eyes. So turn them around, I'll show you a little better. You can see side to side movement there, and up and down. So essentially you're moving the stick the opposite direction that you want the eyes to go, and then they will move. I have seen some people where their eyes were a little stuck, or one eye was a little stuck, and they were able to like manually push the eye to line up the lagging one. But like I said, I think mine are doing all right here. Maybe not perfect, but I think they're decent. And I really love that you can change how the eyes are looking, because it gives a lot of life to this doll. Then when you're done with all that, you can just take the back of the head. You can also see here, these three key marks basically are rounded, and this one at the top is squared. So that tells you where you need to put the corresponding bits on the back of the head. So you just want to try to avoid getting too much hair caught in there, and you can snap it back on. These magnets are not super strong, and that's going to be a reoccurring theme throughout this doll. So you can't really rely on the magnets. I definitely would not pick him up by any magnetized part, but they do hold on well enough that they're not just going to fall off like with a light shake or something. The next magnetic piece is the head itself. So like I mentioned, they are going to be offering additional heads. The first one they've teased is the, what they call a pizza face head, I guess, from the end of part 3. But you can basically take his head and pop it right off the neck there. We can see we have another magnet here in the base of the neck, and then the corresponding bit there in the head. So not a lot we could do with that right now, but you can pop it right back on. And when we have replacements, we'll be able to pop in the replacements very easily. I guess I should show with the head off, you can see a little bit more of the body construction, which is this foam primarily. So there is kind of like an inner core, but this foam is making up the majority of it. It is close to flesh tone, so if you see a little bit of it sticking out, you're probably not in bad shape. There also is this button in the back, which probably would help to undo when swapping the head, just so you can get the collar in the right spot. I was not doing that before. And that's really the hardest part with head swapping or replacing the head, is just to get that collar back in the right position afterwards. Going further down the body, he has this classic good guy costume on. This is pretty much unweathered. Actually, I don't think it's weathered in the slightest. It does seem a little darker than my good guy doll, but it really is very much the same thing. So we got the two buttons at the top of the overalls. We got the pattern going throughout. We have the good guy's logo there across that front pocket. That is a real front pocket. We can see his striped shirt going on underneath it. That continues down to the pants. And then we have his good guy shoes down here with the good guy laces. The shoes do have the classic pattern there on the bottom. They're a little messy because my floor needs to be cleaned. But you can see they do have all that patterning going on the bottom, which is great. He does also have a little sock going on under the shoes. The shoes are more of a somewhat hard plastic, so I don't know if you could take those off easily. They don't really feel like they're made like a real shoe. In the back here we have the cross bits of his overalls. The back of his shirt does have a, like I mentioned, the button up here at the top, but then a Velcro seam going down the middle. And then the ends of the overalls actually do Velcro down here at the bottom, which is accurate to the movie. At least in part 2, when they show them reassembling the doll, they do show the overalls being Velcroed there in the back. So that is an accurate bit to the doll. For the hands, this one comes with a fist on his right arm. It's a pretty simple design. See the little fingernails detailed there. Not a whole lot else going on. And then we get a gripping hand here for the left. So it kind of has an open palm there, the fingers in a grasping pose. And then one of the other bits for continued customization of the character, you can kind of see there's a patch, like a triangular shaped patch in the palm of his hand. And that is actually another magnet. So I believe they have one accessory out so far that matches with this magnet, which is the voodoo knife, a new version of the voodoo knife. I don't have that version yet, so the only way I can really test the magnet is with something else metal. But if we take like a knife, well, maybe not the best thing because you can't really see it, but it is actually sticking to that pad, so it definitely is magnetic. And the other bit of magnetization is in both the wrists. Similar to the head, you could pop them off. They got a magnet inside and then a magnet on the peg here. You pull that up, we can see a little more of that foam arm coming through. So once we have new hands, those will also swap in. I believe the new ones they've shown is, I think, a gripping hand for his right, and then a middle finger for the left, if I'm remembering correctly. Which, that middle finger, that's going to make this doll. So for articulation, he does have that swivel at the neck where it connects. I do kind of wish there was something of a pivot here at the neck so he could throw his head back a little bit. You know, just kind of that iconic Chucky laugh and everything where he kind of tips his head back. The fact that you can't do that is a little disappointing. But given the limitations of the swappable head and everything, and also, honestly, I don't know how well the back of the head would stay on if it was tilted back. So that may just be a limitation of the whole thing. But you can get a good swivel. Obviously, we already talked about the eyes. Really, definitely a standout feature of this thing, having the eyes articulated. You know, I've had him sitting on the floor kind of next to my desk, and it's creepy to have him actually have his eyes angled to look up at me from where he's standing. It definitely adds to the overall appearance of everything. The main torso of the body, I don't feel like there's much articulation in here, if any. The foam is so thick here, I think even whatever bit of the armature is in here, you can't really access. The arms will go up, they'll go out to the side, they'll go forward and back. You can bend at the elbow here, so you get a good range of motion there. And the wrists will swivel. No other articulation there, unfortunately, but you can at least swivel them. It's same on both sides for him. The legs, the body actually kind of indents here around the leg. The Good Guy doll was the same, so sometimes you do have to adjust the clothing after you move them around. But the legs will kick forward, so you can get them into a good sitting position. They will kick back as well, and then you can bring them out to the side. Not a ton, but he does have decent movement there. The knee will bend, so you could get him into a further sitting position, into a walking position. And then there's not really anything going on here at the foot, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping that maybe you could get a little like swivel here at the shoe, but just because of the way he's built, it doesn't seem like that is an option. So, not the most articulated figure or doll or life size or whatever you want to call it, but I think for what it is, it serves the purpose. He's not an action figure, he's a prop replica more than anything else, so it kind of doesn't need to be super articulated as long as you can get him into some good poses, at least in my opinion. A couple other quick items I want to mention here. He does come with the Good Guy doll box. It is similar, or if not the same in dimensions, to the original Good Guy doll box, which is a little confusing because Tots did two different versions of that box. One was the one that actually came with the doll in it. That was a bit bigger than the ones that were sold separately, if I understand that correctly. I like the update they did on this box here. They basically added like a fake price sticker to it, they added some fake damage to it, and then a lot of blood going throughout it. I'm not going to go too far in depth because I don't really like looking at boxes on this channel, but I will mention it is one that I am keeping and putting on display with the doll. And then also, I had at the beginning, and I have again now, him holding the boot dagger, or whatever you want to call that, from part 2. This is the Tots knife. While this one is not set up for the magnetized hand, his hand is posed in a way where he can actually hold it, which is great. I did also try to put the voodoo knife from Spirit Halloween in his hand, and it's too big. It does not fit in his hand. The original Tots voodoo knife was scaled to go with a human, so it's even bigger than that. So honestly, the Spirit Halloween one was nice for a while because at least it scaled a little better. But there are different versions of the voodoo knife they used for that scene. And I think the one Tots did for this doll is the one with a more rounded end to the handle as opposed to the square one that both Spirit and Tots had done before. And it looks like it's more scaled to actually fit the doll's hand. But I have to say, I'm very excited to have this doll. I think it came out fantastic. Ever since I got the Good Guy doll, I've been wanting an actual creepy Chucky to go with it. And to be honest, I was waiting to see what the difference between the Tots Seed of Chucky figure or doll and the NECA Bride of Chucky doll was going to be in person, in hand, before I made my decision where I was going to go on that one. But I am really excited for the possibilities for this for the future, giving him that kind of boot knife, I am kind of hoping we will get a hand that is the knife and the duct tape or electrical tape, packing tape, whatever that. It was packing tape, I think, actually on there to put on there. I think that'd be a really fun accessory to include. Like I said, the middle finger is going to be great. Maybe the cheek burnt version from the first movie would be a cool extra head to offer as well. A lot of different things you could do here. I am also curious if they'll offer good guy heads and hands for this. I don't need them because I already have the standalone good guy doll, but I am curious if that will be an option. But yeah, I definitely recommend this guy. He's not the cheapest collectible out there for sure, but I am really happy to have him. I think he displays really well, and there's a lot of future potential for this thing, so that's really cool to me. I did not pre-order mine. I know Tots had a thing with these where they had pre-orders from them directly ship out first, except for like a couple people in Australia. But I did find this relatively soon after on a site called The Last Toy Store. They had him. Shipping wasn't outrageous. I could have ordered direct from Tots, but their shipping was like $60-$70, and I was really trying to avoid paying that much for shipping on an already expensive item. I think it was like $20 from Last Toy Store, and I figured I could either do that or wait for Big Bad Toy Store and see if they'll have it under their $4 shipping. But I was being impatient, so I got them from them, and they shipped super fast, so I'm not going to complain about that at all. But yeah, definitely recommend Chucky, and let me know in the comments below. Did you pick this one up? Do you have any of the other Tots ones? Which company do you think is going to have the better scarred version of Chucky? Anxiously waiting to see what that NECA one is going to look like in person. Until next time, this is the end.